I'm Angie Avery, host of Be a Kid in Clarkston and a Clarkston area family counselor. This is our second episode of our new Independence television series, and we're excited to continue learning about childhood development, education, friendships, parenting, adolescence, physical and mental well-being, aging, and recreation. It's a lot of things. As you may recall, this show will focus on belonging to our community and living a childlike existence for a lifetime in Clarkston. We'll have a lot to do to get started today. Let's start by discussing the young child from birth through age 3. So stay tuned if you are a parent or grandparent of this age group. There exists a great deal of research on infant and toddler health, and we will talk today to two community experts on children, pediatrician Dr. James Shea from Premier Pediatrics and Teresa Osborne from Clarkston Community Schools Early Childhood Center. Welcome to both of you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
So let's jump right in and get started talking about infant health and wellness. I'll start with you, Dr. Shea. What are the primary areas of concern and major milestones for children from birth to age 3?
Well, during the first year of life, we're continuing to monitor babies for all the different developmental milestones. We're making sure that newborns are responding well to lights and sounds, responding to faces, moving their arms and legs equally. At about 4 months, we're looking to make sure that they hold their heads up straight and they're laughing and giggling. At 6 months old, they should be able to sit alone and start some babble talking. 9 months old, they're pulling themselves up, able to stand and waving bye-bye. By a year, they're starting to walk a little bit, saying some mama dada things. And remember for parents that not all kids do everything at the same age. There is a variability in that, and not every kid is doing everything at exactly the same time. And if a kid isn't doing things at a particular age, we usually encourage some different types of investigations for those issues.
Okay, so we shouldn't be concerned if it's right on the money on 6 months.
No,
it could be somewhere around there.
There's usually some variation.
Sure. When a baby ages from 1 to 3, what should we be on the lookout for in terms of health and wellness? Like, what makes a healthy toddler, though?
I'd say the number one thing that we watch for most is growth pattern, that a child is growing along the growth curve normally. That's the best indicator of overall health. We also are monitoring for all the different milestones as they continue on past a year of age. Like at 18 months old, they should be starting to run, as many parents will remember that. Putting words together at 2 years old, 3 years old is starting to be able to name pictures in a book and things like that. So watching that they're growing physically and growing mentally along those developmental milestones is an important indicator of health.
Okay, great. What about the controversy on vaccines? I know there's a lot of debate about that. What do you want the Clarkston community to know?
I'd like everybody to be really cognizant of the fact that immunizations are the single most important thing that we do for our children. Immunizations have been used for decades and completely proven to be safe and extremely effective. There's been a great deal of misinformation that's been perpetuated on the internet, and they should be aware that this is misinformation. And we should also be very cognizant of the fact that there are many diseases now which are making comebacks. For most recently, measles has made comebacks. We've seen it in like Disneyland. There was an outbreak there, and the Academy of Pediatrics suggested that parents not bring their children there. So it's very important for parents to make sure that they don't get caught up in the misinformation and get their kids' immunizations all up to date.
Okay, great, thank you. How can we make sure our infants and toddlers are safe?
Well, we're looking for unsafe things in our home.
Sure.
Poisoning hazards, choking hazards that are always available. But the number one health concern as far as safety goes in children is car accidents. So making sure you have an appropriately fitting car seat and making sure that the car seat is attached to the car properly, and being aware of that probably first and foremost.
Absolutely. Okay, so what can we do as parents of infants and toddlers to ensure a healthy upbringing? What's our role, basically?
I'd say first and foremost is to make sure that all your immunizations are up to date, because those risk factors are just coming back up. Keeping up with regular doctor visits to make sure your child is growing along the milestones and the physical milestones that they should be. And I think parents should be spending as much time as they can playing and talking with their children, and especially reading to them. There's numerous studies that show that reading to your child is one of the greatest contributors to long-term mental health.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Shea, for all your help answering our questions and providing Clarkston with great pediatric care. Hi, Teresa. How are you?
Well, thank
I'm
you.
looking forward to hearing from you. Clarkston Community Schools has an early childhood program. I don't know if everybody knows a lot about it, so can you tell us more about it, please?
Yes, our Early Childhood Center houses a wide variety of services and programs. We have services for children birth to 5 years. We have a toddler playtime program for parents and their 2-year-olds, and we have a program for traditional preschool for 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. We have a half-day program, all-day program. We have Great Start Readiness program. We have Young Fives and special education services for birth to 5-year-old children.
Wow, that's a lot. Okay, I didn't realize we had so much. Okay, what would you say is the biggest concern in terms of education that you are seeing at this age range, birth to 3, birth to 5?
I think the biggest area of concern in terms of education is this age is that so many people don't always know and see the importance or value of early education. Children are born ready to learn, and their brains are developing at an enormous rate in the first few years of life. This is the time when they learn and they develop in the early cognitive and social skills that set the foundation for later success in school, career, and life. Research shows that children as young as 2, 3, their brain is producing hundreds of trillions of connections. So anytime you can, as Dr. Shea said, read to little ones, talk to them, work with them is part of their brain development. A child reaches this critical developmental stage only once in their lifetime, and it's imperative that parents and programs are in place to nurture this important cognitive and social growth time.
That's great. Okay. On our last episode, Dr. Rock described the whole child development perspective. From your experience, what makes a well-rounded whole child?
The positive relationships that early childhood professionals and parents have with our infants and toddlers are going to lay the foundation for all learning that follows. With each learned skill leading to a new one, a partnership between parents, caregivers, and educators is very important to foster a healthy and safe, challenging, engaging, and supportive environment. That's the best way to ensure a well-rounded whole child.
Excellent. Okay. What can we do as parents and as a community in Clarkston to support our very young children?
Most times, the staff at the Early Childhood Center are the first academic influence in the children's life, and they'll be exposed to those first teachers. We want to work together. That's very, very important to ensure that every child has a safe learning environment where they can explore and learn through play and hands-on experiences. As a community member, supporting early childhood programs and valuing early childhood education is very important. It's a stepping stone for academic success. We're really partners with the community, with parents, and with the children.
Thank you, Teresa from the Early Childhood Center, and thank you, Dr. Shea from Premier Pediatrics, for being on our show today. Now, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about a very important childhood development for our targeted age range of birth to 3, attachment. There has been a great deal of research on attachment parenting, and from my counseling perspective, I understand the importance of parenting with connection, trust, and responsiveness. But just what does attachment mean in terms of parenting? Attachment theory is the work of Dr. John Bowlby, who suggested that children come into the world pre-programmed to form attachments with others because they will need that attachment figure in order to survive. You figure during human evolution, it would have been the babies who stayed close to their moms that would have survived and thrived. Dr. Bowlby hypothesized that both infants and mothers, or their primary caregiver, have evolved a biological need to stay connected to each other. Dr. Bowlby suggested that the attachment figure acted as sort of a secure base to explore the world for the child. The attachment relationship acts as a prototype for all future social relationships, so disrupting it can have severe consequences. Noted psychologist Dr. Mary Ainsworth took Dr. Bowlby's work even further, and in 1969 devised a creative way to see attachment and attachment styles in action through the use of the strange situation video. This experiment videotaped infants in a room with their mother and a stranger. Then when the mother leaves the room, the experiment shows how the infant behaves toward the loss of the mother and to the stranger. The real test, however, is proven when the attachment figure, or the mother, re-enters the room. The infant will either be soothed by the sight and touch of her mother, or will not trust that she will be soothed, or will completely ignore the fact that she's even returned. Dr. Ainsworth has labeled these three types of infant attachment: secure attachment, insecure attachment, whether it's ambivalent or avoidant, and disorganized attachment. What happens is fascinating, and it's a great lesson to us as parents. I'm sure both of my guests today can agree, securely attached infants are easily soothed by their parents or their attachment figure. So, for instance, when a mother leaves the room, the infant will cry and be in distress when they're securely attached. Upon her return, the infant is comforted and happy and not in distress. That is secure attachment, because the mother is sensitive to her child's signals and responds appropriately to his or her needs. She picks the child up, cuddles and comforts them, and calms them down. These children trust that their attachment figure will respond to them in times of need. They also use their attached caregiver as a safe base to explore the world. You've seen this in your own life. When your child was in a new environment, let's say at a park, they explore a bit, then they come back to us, make sure we're still there, and then they go explore again. They keep coming back to us in order to check in as a secure base. But what happens when a child does not trust that their caregiver will be there in times of need? And just how does that even develop in a child anyways? Well, a child becomes insecurely attached when the attachment figure or mother, let's say, doesn't respond to their distress either at all or is inappropriate or inconsistent with their response. Maybe the mother doesn't pick up the child, doesn't say soothing words, or is angry, or sometimes is comforting, but not all the time. The infant learns that they cannot rely on their attachment figure to soothe them. In some case examples, the insecurely attached infant can behave in a number of ways. They could ignore the caregiver when they re-enter the room, just like you're not even there, because they've learned that the mother doesn't help them to be soothed. Or they could behave with anger, such as slapping. Or in a disorganized attachment, they could do several different behaviors that don't really make sense. If you're interested in attachment and how very young children behave when insecurely attached, please check out the links to the videos that show a little bit more about this on my website at thecounselingstudioclarkston.com. I'll post them there for a limited time. Now, most children are securely attached. According to Dr. Ainsworth, something like 70% thrive to become excellent students and responsible citizens of the world. And I know here in Clarkston, that's what we have. Let's continue making sure we do our part to contribute to our kids as a community. Thank you for joining us today on Be a Kid in Clarkston. We look forward to our next episode, where we will discuss childhood with elementary age kids in mind. See you then.